In this video, we'll be going over Form SSA-4-BK. This is the application for Social Security benefits on behalf for a child on behalf of either an eligible worker or a deceased worker. So we do have additional information about the eligibility requirements, required documentation, and other aspects of your application. We've created an article which you can find on our website, teachmepersonalfinance.com. Go to the search bar, type in Form SSA-4-BK, and you should see the article appear. In this video, we'll simply walk through the application itself. We'll talk about certain aspects of the eligibility requirements as they appear on the form, but we'll try not to go too deep into topics that aren't on the form itself. So this is a 9-page form. Most of the application is on the first 6 pages. We'll kind of walk you through some of the things that you can expect to answer as part of your application. So you can apply for this over the phone, but you will need to make a visit to your local Social Security office to conduct an eligibility interview if you aren't able to do that over the phone, or and at the very least to bring your application and your supporting documentation. So again, you can find all the supporting details in the article. Let's go through the form itself. So let's go ahead and we're going to apply for benefits on for a child on behalf of John Doe. So we'll put his Social Security name. We'll put his wife as the applicant. And in this fictitious example, John Doe has passed away. He does have one qualifying child that would be eligible for child benefits based on his earnings history. So in part 1, we're going to talk about the children, and then as we get further into the form in part 2, we'll talk about the decedent. And again, that information is only required if the person has actually passed away. So that's why we're going to do this on behalf of our fictitious John Doe decedent, and let's just say that his daughter's name is Elizabeth Marie Doe, and she was born at, nope, that's not going to work. So she was born on January 1st, 2020. So to be eligible as a child, you have to be either under the age of 18. You can be age 18 or 19 as long as you're still attending either elementary or, secondary school, known as high school, so grades 12 or lower, full-time, or if you're 18 or older with a disability that began before the age of 22. So in that case, an adult child can be, however old, but basically the disability that began before the age of 22. So for Elizabeth, you would check the box if she was a student or if she was disabled. She's not 17 and a half or older, so we're going to leave those alone. And then we're going to check the appropriate box that shows that child's relationship. So it can be your natural child, it can be an adopted child, but you would have to actually officially adopt the child, not necessarily act as a sponsor or a foster parent. A stepchild can be a dependent grandchild, or there could be other relationship that may qualify that's not listed here. And then at the end, we're going to put her Social Security number at the end. So the additional note is that if you do not personally wish to be the payee for any child or dependent grandchild, then you would list their name and address in the remarks section on page 5. You can apply for a child on their behalf even if you do not wish to be the payee. Most of the time, this is probably going to be a parent applying on behalf of a child. So, but if you don't want to, you can make those additional marks on page 5. So if any of the children in item 3 were stepchildren, then you would enter the date that the natural parent and the worker, in this case the person whose earnings history we're applying for, the date that they got married. So in this case that doesn't apply because Elizabeth is a natural daughter. So in line 5 we're going to answer whether or not there was a legal representative, like a guardian, conservator. So this is not a parent, this would be a legally appointed representative. We're going to answer no, but then on the next page we'll walk through what you would say if you needed to. So you would need to enter the name, address, and telephone number of that legal representative in the space provided, and then you would explain the circumstances that led the court to appoint that legal representative, whatever the case was that led to that. In question 6, we're going to answer whether or not you're the natural or the adoptive parent of that person. In this case, where Mary Doe is the natural parent. Have any children ever been adopted by someone other than the worker? So that would be basically, you know, if one of these children that you're requesting for was adopted by an ex-spouse or an ex-relation, some other person other than that worker. So in this case, no. Question 8, are all the children living in the same household with you? So we're going to answer yes, but if no, then you would list the child's name, the person's name and address, as well as their relationship to that child, where the child lives. So it could be like a grandparent, you know, like if Elizabeth was living with Nana, and Nana lives at and then we would put her relationship like that. Has any child in item 3 ever been married? We're going to answer no because she's only 4 years old. But if she was, then you would enter her name, the date of marriage. If it's, so let's just say date of marriage, let's say that she got married on her first birthday. And you would say not ended if she's still married, but if she was divorced, then you would enter the date of the divorce. So obviously that part is hypothetical, as well as the rest of this. We're just completing these blocks so that you can see how this is done. So in this case, if you're only applying for a child over the age of 18 who is disabled, you can skip lines 10 through 13. Basically, we're going to talk about earnings information. So we're going to talk about last year's earnings information. We're going to talk about this year's. And then, if applicable, we're going to talk about what we think income is going to look like for next year. So we're going to answer no, obviously, but I'll go through these. Let's imagine that Elizabeth did, and she earned $10,000. Now, researching this, I know that this is well below the, there is an exemption amount of earnings that you can have under full retirement age, which Elizabeth clearly is under the full retirement age. So you would have to break down, like, so this question right here, did any child earn more than the exempt amount last year? So we're filling this in based on whether or not we say yes. So $10,000 is definitely not, I mean, it's well below that. The exact number is something like 22,000, which is in the article. But let's just say that she earned $50,000 from beauty pageants or her social media as a toddler, then you would have to list each month that the child did not earn more than the exempt amount in a monthly fashion. So they basically break the exempt amount into monthly payments, and then you would have to say which month that person did not earn more than the exempt amount and did not perform, quote, substantial services in self-employment. So we actually do, there is an IRS definition, or sorry, a Social Security definition of that. We outline that in the article for your benefit. I'm not going to go into too much more depth because there are probably not very many families where the child, is eligible for benefits but earns more than this exempt amount. Earnings information for this year, you're going to do the same thing. You would put the name of the child who expects to earn over the amount, the expected earnings. Of course, this is not exact information because you're expecting to earn this much. So it could be what you expect to earn, based on last year. It could be based on pay statements. It could be based on actual, cash prizes or contests that your child may be entering. Whatever the case may be, there may be some sort of expected earnings, and then you would list each month to include the present month that child did not or will not earn more than that amount, the exempt amount. So item 12, you only need to complete this if you're in the last 4 months of the child's taxable year. If this statement confuses you, then assume that you only need to complete item 12 if you're applying between September and December of any year. If the child has a taxable year other than a calendar year, then that is known as a fiscal year. And according to the IRS, a fiscal year is any 12-month consecutive period that ends at the end of a month other than January. For example, the federal government operates on a fiscal year schedule that goes from October 1st to September 30th each year. So most children aren't going to be concerned about completing item 12 outside of September, October, November, and December. If you are aware that their taxable year is different from a calendar year, then you probably know enough about your child's situation to determine what the last 4 months of their taxable year is, and then enter the appropriate information. As we did before, you're going to enter the name of the child, the expected earnings, and then each month in which the child will not earn at least that exempt amount in wages. If you have trouble completing this or with any information about the exempt amount at the SSA office, they will help you walk through this. So this is hopefully the goal of this is if you're applying or if you're completing this application over the phone, you're walking through this conversation with the employee, you should be able to probably get to about 80 to 90% completion. And then when you go in for your in-person interview, the person's going to review each page to make sure that you've clearly indicated or answered the question properly. So again, name of the child and month that a fiscal year ends, let's just say. And then her fiscal year, let's say it ends on September 30th. All right, so items 14 and 15 only apply if the worker is living. We're going to skip over this since John Doe is deceased, but let's just say that Elizabeth was adopted. Then you would enter the date of adoption. So let's just assume that we made a terrible mistake. She wasn't born on January 1st, 2010. She was actually adopted on that date. That's how you would complete that. And again, you would do that for each child that applies. By the way, you notice that there may be limited space. If you've got If you've got more information for this, for any particular question than what fits in the space, you can go to the remarks section. What I would recommend is that you make it a clear difference between each section. So let's just say whatever question 4 is, answer to question 4. So you can say something like item 4, and then you can skip a couple lines. Item 6, enter. So I would just make sure that each part is marked accordingly so that the person who's reading this application knows where to refer to it. It's going to make your application process a lot simpler if you make it simpler and easier for the person that's processing it to actually read and understand your intent. So I've worked with a lot of financial planning clients on filing for Social Security benefits. One of the things that I've observed is that dealing with the Social Security Administration, you're better off if you no one wants to be the person that says no. So if you think of this as an opportunity to help that employee say yes to your application, you're getting what you want while their job is a little bit easier. They're empowered to give you the thing that you want. So a lot of people get frustrated when dealing with bureaucracy. My secret formula basically is to make it less bureaucratic for the person that's trying to process this paperwork. So, one way to do that is to be able to type or write clearly in each of these forms, and then make the remarks section or any additional information that you need to provide, make it very clear and easy for someone to say, this is the information I need, or if they need to follow up with you, they know exactly what question to ask. They can get right to the point, and then they can either make an informed decision based on the guidelines and the information that you provided. So let's go back to item 15. So we're going to answer, have all the children in item 3 lived with the worker for each of the last 13 months? So that includes this month and then the entire year prior to. So we'll say yes, but if this is a no, then you would list each month that this did not apply. So it could be something like that. Then you could put Nano's contact information, right? Grandmother. And again, we already kind of went through this. I'm just filling in the blanks so you can visualize it. In item 16, there's a question that most people will probably say no to. Basically, if any of the children in item 3, that's the list of children, are within 2 months of age 65 or older, blind, or if they're disabled, do you want to also file for SSI, Supplemental Security Income, on their behalf? So SSI, Supplemental Security Income, is available to certain people that are considered lower income with a significant disability. They may qualify for SSI in the same way that they may qualify for other federal or state provided benefits, such as Medicaid or Medicare, TANF, the Assistance for Needy Families, SNAP benefits, the Supplemental Nutrition Program. So we list a lot of different examples in the article under item 16. If you're curious, there are also links to the places in the Social Security website where you can drill down more into it. But if you think your child's going to apply or qualify for SSI, then you would check yes. We're going to check no. And In this part, part 2, we're going to enter information about the decedent. So in this case, John Doe was born on January 1st, 1970. His name at birth was the same as this. Let's see. Let's imagine that he died about a month and a half ago, and he died in Anytown, Texas. So if he lived in a foreign country, or you would name the foreign country. He lived in Texas, so we're going to list the state that he lived in. Did the worker work in the railroad industry for 5 years or more? If you answer yes, then the Social Security Administration would take the additional step of determining, which benefits may apply. The railroad industry has a separate pension system known as RRTA. It operates very similarly to the Social Security system in kind of a parallel fashion. So similar benefits, similar calculations, but completely separate. So if you have to answer yes to this question, then there's a different kind of set of circumstances that may apply to you. Line 21, did the worker have Social Security credits under another country's Social Security system? So, in a prior life, I worked with a financial planning client who also paid into the Canadian Social Security system. So, they had to deconflict the rules involved in that. So if you answered yes, you would hit yes, and then the country or countries that you may have credits accumulated under. So in this case, we'll hit no. Did the worker have wages or self-employment income covered from all years from 1978 through last year? We'll say no, because John Doe was born in 1970, but he wasn't working since he was the age of 8. So let's say which years did he not have wages or self-employment income? So let's just say 1978 through 1992, right? If he passed away during the last 2 years, then you would answer these questions. How much did he earn from employment and unemployment during the year of death? Let's just say he earned $60,000 the year that he died. The year prior, he earned $120,000. Box 24, you would check if this applies. You're not submitting evidence of the deceased's earnings that are not yet on their earnings record. You do understand that those earnings will be included automatically, and that any increase in your benefits will be paid retroactively. So you may need to check that if you don't have additional information about that person's earnings, like pay statements or, a prior year W-2. The Social Security Administration will deconflict this with the IRS, but it will take up to a couple of years to do that based on W-2 filings and, when income was earned. And then anything that is increased will go all the way back to the date of eligibility determined by the Social Security Administration. In line 25, you would only answer this if the worker died prior to age 66 and within the past 4 months. So you would answer whether or not that person was unable to work, and then what date that person was unable to work. So if, we would just enter something like that. Were all the children living with the worker at the time of death? Yes. So you would then enter the name and of any children not living with that worker, as well as the person that they were living with and their relationship. At the bottom of page 6, there's a signature field. You can sign it. Make sure that you use ink. You would date the form. So, and then any telephone number that you wish the Social Security Administration to call you at in case they have additional questions. Most people participate in direct deposit. If you don't, there are three reasons that come to the top of my mind why you should do so. One, security. Having a check floating around the mail system is a lot less secure than a direct deposit into your bank account every month. Two, traceability. If there's not a payment, it's much easier to see whether or not a payment posted to your checking or savings account than it is to track down a check and have the Treasury Department try to do a trace. And then three, records keeping. It's a lot easier to actually keep records on all the payments that you've had. So I would recommend it. So you would, if you want to do that, you would enter your routing number, which is the unique 9-digit number for your bank, the account number, which is the unique to your account, checking or savings, and then Direct Express is the program that the federal government uses to pay benefits for, a wide variety of programs. Then you would enter your address here. And then Social Security Administration still accepts applications signed by a mark or an X. If you sign this by a mark, then two witnesses who personally know you must also sign this and give their full complete address. And then you would print the applicant's name in the signature block instead of the actual signing. So you would hit X and then you would print the person's name right next to it. So this form also contains Privacy Act statement information, Paperwork Reduction Act statement. It says that it should take about 12 minutes to complete the form. It also shows you how you would file. You would need to send it or bring it to your local office. This is pretty obvious right here. I'll probably get at least one person that asks me whether or not you can file it by mail. You can call the phone number to start the application process, but then you would need to complete your form in person. On the back, you should see a receipt. So when you leave the Social Security office, you should have all of this information completed, a telephone of, what you should call to contact before you read or before you receive any notification of an award or a denial, and then a contact information for after you receive that notice. The SSA office, and then the date that they received your claim. They should also have an estimated waiting period for how many days it'll take for them to process, and then the claimant, your Social Security number, and then the name, John Doe's name, right? And then on the back are changes that you need to report and how you may report them under certain circumstances. So, if you move, if your child's citizenship or immigration status changes, if anyone goes outside the United States for over a month, if anyone dies, if your work, changes. There's a list of required changes in a status that you would need to report to the Social Security Administration just to keep them up to speed. Your benefits may change, but if they end up having to do this retroactively and they find out that they overpaid you, then that's going to be more detrimental than if you simply file the change notices when you're supposed to. So that's all we have for this form. It's pretty long, but if you take it step by step, it's not that difficult. We'll put links in the show notes to other resources that we've created on other Social Security forms that you may need either while applying or after you've made that application and started receiving benefits. So if you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. If you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions or comments, or if there's another topic that you'd like to see covered in an upcoming video, please hit me up in the comments section. Thank you very much and have a great day.